So, Sentinel Prime, Autobot Trader, last of the 13 Primes, Optimus Prime's mentor, and the son of a glitch who killed Ironhide. You hate him, I hate him, we all hate him. But just how strong is Sentinel Prime from Transformers Dark of the Moon? In this video, I will be answering that question, and spoilers, Sentinel Prime is a whole lot stronger than people giving credit for. So in this video, I'm gonna be looking at Sentinel Prime's feats, and I'm gonna be explaining his stats. I'm gonna be looking at Sentinel Prime's physical strength, endurance, speed, firepower, intelligence, and skills/utilities. We'll be doing this to figure out how strong Sentinel Prime is, and I'm sort of gonna be using the toy specs of Sentinel Prime that Hasbro has provided to us, but I'm not gonna be using as the be-all end-all determining factor as to tell how strong Sentinel Prime is, because I don't care how much you tell me, there's no way that Sentinel Prime with his fire truck vehicle mode is faster than Jazz. There's no way. So I'm not going to be paying too much attention to those, and also unlike the spec system that Hasbro gave us, I'm going to be doing things a bit different. I'm going to be classifying Sentinel Prime's parameters based on this scale right here. A 1 is basically an F, and a 10 is basically an EX. Depending on the letter I assign, it basically means that the Transformer falls into one of these categories, and his power level is somewhere around this margin. In a scale of 1 to 10, how strong is Sentinel Prime in like each one of these categories? But yeah, in this video, I'm gonna be explaining Sentinel Prime's crazy feats, and I'm gonna be taking a look at not only the movie, but I'm also gonna be taking a look at the prequel comics, the novelization, and the comic adaptation, along with some producer statements about the character to determine how strong, how fast, how durable he is. So yeah, now that you know the rules, we can finally start talking about how strong is Sentinel Prime. Let's begin. Subject: Sentinel Prime. Cybertronian class: Tactician. This type of Cybertronian usually possesses high intelligence, high combat skills, quick battle adaptation, which they use to gain the upper hand on their enemies by turning their own strength against them. Most of them have tough armor plating and are able to withstand many hits from their opponents, as well as quite a few explosives and gunfire. Most of them also possess bonus anti-armor weaponry. This type of Cybertronian is pretty strong against the Brawler class due to their high intelligence and quick battle adaptation. More often than not, they're able to turn their own strength against them. Their anti-armor weaponry also comes really useful in fighting this type of class, since Brawlers typically have tough armor. However, this type of Cybertronian is pretty weak against the Demolition class. Their resistance to really heavy firepower is not the greatest. They can easily get overwhelmed if the enemy is packing a lot of firepower. Also, high intelligence doesn't really come useful when you're being bombarded from all different directions by high explosives, and their combat skills become useless since the Demolition class more often than not prefers to fight from a distance, with very few exceptions. Overall, I believe Sentinel Prime falls here because he's a very intelligent Autobot, and he is able to outperform and outskill Optimus Prime in single combat. And keep in mind that Optimus Prime also falls into the Brawler class category, so yeah. Cybertronian type: Destroyer, strong, packing in heavy weaponry, average in size, speed, and health. This type of Cybertronian is one of the most standard builds you can find. However, don't let that fool you. These types of Cybertronians are the most varied. Unlike Titans who are tanky and slow, or Scouts who are small and fast, Destroyers can come in all shapes and sizes, meaning that there is no one definitive look for this type. This also makes them the most unpredictable type of Cybertronian to encounter, since you never truly know their full strength, speed, and durability. This type of Cybertronians typically transform into trucks or any kind of heavy armored vehicle. And now we're gonna be looking at Sentinel Prime's parameters. We're gonna start with physical strength. Rank A. In the comic, after being reactivated by the Matrix of Leadership, he immediately sent Optimus Prime flying towards a wall inside the nest space. Supposedly this caused minimal damage, but it's still pretty impressive he managed to do this to an Autobot as tall as Optimus Prime, and with one arm no less. Later, when Sentinel Prime betrayed the Autobots and began preparing the space bridge for the Decepticons to invade, he once again sent Optimus Prime flying and managed to overpower Optimus Prime, nearly killing him. The comic explicitly states that if Lennox hadn't intervened, Optimus would have lost that fight. Lennox created the perfect distraction for Sentinel Prime to hold his onslaught and not kill Optimus Prime. Now this is one that a lot of you guys probably don't know about. In an alternate universe, he managed to overpower Lockdown. Keep in mind that this alternate universe is basically the same universe as Dark of the Moon, but according to Vector Prime, in this universe, Megatron was the one who killed the Fallen. He then directly attacked Earth with an army of Decepticons. The Autobots eventually found Sentinel Prime. Most of the events from Dark of the Moon repeat, but the Autobots and the humans actually lose the war and humanity gets enslaved and the Autobots are on the run. Later in the timeline of this universe, Lockdown arrives on Earth much like he did in Age of Extinction, and he demanded Megatron and Sentinel to hand over Optimus Prime, who they had captured. However, Sentinel Prime had a change of heart. His spark was moved by Optimus Prime's words, saying that this was not the right thing to do and that the old Sentinel Prime will never did the things that he did. So he fought Lockdown and managed to overpower him. Keep in mind that Lockdown was one of the most skilled combatants in the entirety of the Bayverse, and Sentinel Prime managed to beat him by himself. In Dark of the Moon, he managed to contend with Optimus Prime in a physical duel, and at times was even shown to get the upper hand on him. And keep in mind that Optimus Prime has shown plenty of crazy feats throughout the whole Bayverse, such as, with one punch basically tearing half of Shockwave's chest, and even having enough strength to rip people's faces with just his bare hands. So we can scale Sentinel to being just as strong, if not a little stronger than Optimus Prime as is portrayed by the time of Dark of the Moon. Endurance. A. He managed to survive 3 almost point-blank shotgun shots from Megatron's gun, and was about to keep on fighting if Megatron hadn't been fast enough to catch him by surprise and proceeded to wreck him without being able to defend himself. He survived being mauled by Megatron and having chunks of his torso be torn out, as well as surviving a direct shot by Megatron's shotgun once again, but this time it was to his spark chamber, before being killed off by a direct shot to the head. When he had Prime pinned down and at his mercy, a missile launcher shot from Lennox was enough to break his hold. Yet this freed Prime for a few seconds and Sentinel managed to easily regain control with minimal injury, in literally about the span of 3 seconds, with no sign of any serious damage. The only reason Prime even survived that encounter is because Sentinel had a change of heart and decided to let Optimus Prime live, so he can reflect on his actions and possibly decide to join him and Megatron in restoring Cybertron, much like what happened in the movie. The only thing that severely injured Sentinel Prime in the comic was his own shield's blast. In the comic, Sentinel Prime doesn't use his Rust gun from the movies. Instead, his shield has the ability to shoot a fiery projectile that is ridiculously strong. We'll get to that part later in the video, but during the final battle, once Optimus Prime managed to take the shield away from Sentinel, one shot was all it took to take Sentinel Prime down for good. Now this might seem like Sentinel Prime is really weak, but it's more the fact that in the comics, his gun is ridiculously overpowered. His gun was able to one-shot the twins and killed Ironhide with just 2 shots. So his weapon is no joke. That thing can easily kill off a Transformer. It's by far one of the most powerful weapons that we have seen a Transformers possess in the comic universe. And none of the shots from the humans and Autobots were able to take Sentinel Prime down. The only thing that took him down was his own gun. This just goes to show that Sentinel Prime has some crazy resistance to gunfire. During the final battle, a direct missile launcher shot to his chest was enough to knock him down and force him to retreat. Oddly enough, he didn't seem to have suffered any type of critical damage from that hit, besides being knocked down by the force of the impact, and later having the entirety of the Autobot human forces focus their fire on him. And after that, he went on to fight Optimus and managed to basically beat him. Speed, C+. Since he's basically a fire truck, he's not that fast. However, he still managed to stay ahead of the Dreads that were chasing after him for a decent amount of time, although the Dreads were also distracted by the 3 Autobots chasing them, so that can also be a reason why Sentinel managed to stay ahead of them for as long as he did. His max speed in vehicle mode should be somewhere around 87 miles per hour, but since he's a Transformer, it is very likely that his travel speed in vehicle mode goes a bit faster than that. By how much, I'm not sure, but likely is lower than 100 miles per hour. In robot mode, Sentinel seems to struggle with smaller opponents and his hits seem to be slower, but in return, they do seem to pack a lot of power as covered in the physical strength section of the video. His final engagement with the Autobots towards the end of the movie is the perfect example of this. He wasn't able to directly hit them with his physical attacks. He had to rely on his gun to even manage to hit one of them. When he tried to get away from the humans and Autobots in vehicle mode, Optimus Prime in his robot mode managed to catch him quite easily. So yeah, he's pretty slow. Personally, I feel that he might be a little faster in robot mode than in vehicle mode, but it's honestly pretty hard to tell. However, due to his robot mode speed, I will give Sentinel Prime a higher speed ranking than what I did for Shockwave, who was arguably faster in vehicle mode than what he was in robot mode. Firepower EX. I will not cover the Cosmic Ross in this section, I will save that for the skill/utility section. So right now I'm just covering the strength of his initial shots, not the after effect of the Cosmic Ross, so just keep that in mind. In the comics, Sentinel Prime's shield, besides serving as a defensive wall, it also has the ability to shoot a stream of energy which is strong enough to kill Transformers quite easily. A shot from his shield was strong enough to rip apart half of Ironhide's body, and later when he was on the ground, his second shot caused a small explosion strong enough to kill Ironhide. The secondary firing mode of his shield in the comic was also strong enough to one-shot Skids and Mudflap when they tried to fight Sentinel Prime shortly after he killed Ironhide. During the comic climax, Optimus Prime managed to acquire Sentinel Prime's shield, and with one shot from that weapon, Sentinel Prime was down for the count. This means that his weapon is strong enough to take down Prime level opponents. Keep in mind that unlike in the movie, comic Sentinel had taken little to no damage as opposed to his movie counterpart and still got one shot by his weapon. So yeah, that's crazy OP. And also, before you ask, when Sentinel Prime uses his shield as a gun, it also possesses the Cosmic Ross after effect. His gun in the movie at point blank range was enough to critically injure Ironhide with 2 shots and 3 to finish him, although it was the Cosmic Ross to finish him, but whatever. Yet later in the movie, the best the weapon does against the Autobots is that it sends Sideswipe flying, and I'm not factoring the Cosmic Ross just yet, I'm just measuring the strength of the Fire Blast itself. Trans Theories did a good video as to why Sideswipe didn't end up going the way of Mr. Ironhide. I don't feel so good. It's a pretty interesting theory, and I'm honestly gonna say that it's probably true, so I'm gonna put a link in the description to his video, but basically what he says is that the Cosmic Ross is limited, so by the time of the final battle he already used most of it against Ironhide and Optimus. So that's why the shot of the gun didn't kill Sideswipe, and all it managed to do was to send Sideswipe flying. So Sentinel's gun seems to be ideal at close range, but it seems to be rather ineffectual at long range. If someone like Sideswipe can take the hit and be relatively uninjured after the gun has been fired like, I don't know, 7 times, then I guess Sentinel Prime has a limited amount of shots before his gun becomes completely ineffective. Intelligence A. So he created the pillars, something that in the right hands could be used to turn the tide of battles and wars in an instant. With the pillars, entire planets can be transported to another location in the galaxy in a few minutes, and also allow for Cybertronians to travel from one side of the galaxy to the opposite side in mere seconds. Optimus Prime wanted to return leadership of the Autobots back to Sentinel Prime, since Optimus saw Sentinel as his superior. This implies that Sentinel would have made a better leader/tactician than Prime was, and that Prime considered that if the Autobots were under his leadership, he could do a much better job than he was currently doing. This of course is implied, but besides that, Sentinel Prime is also a pretty old Autobot, and with old age comes wisdom, so it is likely that to some degree, Sentinel outclassed Prime in intelligence. I mean, really, can you picture Optimus Prime creating a space bridge portal and transporting entire planets? Yeah, I don't think so. He managed to play the part of a spy and betray the Autobots without them even realizing it. He later would use his position as the quote-unquote leader of the Autobots to force the humans to exile the renegade Autobots and leave them vulnerable enough for the Decepticons to almost kill them. He even manipulated Megatron and the Decepticons. He planned to use them so he can be the one that revives Cybertron, and after the smoke clears, he can be the sole ruler of the Cybertronian race once the major Decepticon figures get killed off by the Autobots and humans. Side note, wow, he really thought all of this through. This actually makes him a very scary enemy since this guy was playing, well, everyone. He was playing the long game and almost won. In the comic, it is also revealed that Sentinel was already aware that Prime and the other Autobots were still alive and were coming to Chicago to destroy the pillars, something that Megatron and the rest of the Decepticons were completely unaware of, and later under Sentinel Prime's advice, they immediately started going after the Autobots. This just goes to show that Sentinel is definitely smarter than the average Cybertronian and master manipulators like Megatron and Soundwave. After Dark of the Moon, KSI considered his knowledge valuable enough to study instead of melting his head into scrap to build more KSI-trons. Joshua specifically states that through his and Megatron's heads they are learning more about the Transformers race science and history. According to Vector Prime, in an alternate universe, Sentinel Prime had a change of heart when Lockdown arrived on Earth, and instead he betrayed Megatron, defeated Lockdown, and freed the Dinobots from enslavement. With their forces vastly outnumbered by the Decepticons, the two Primes and the Dinobots fought a long and hard guerrilla warfare campaign against the Decepticon army and won. Sentinel Prime, with just a few troops and the help of Optimus Prime, managed to single-handedly take back Earth from the Decepticons. Oh, by the way, he also used Lockdown C to heal Cybertron. For the prequel comic of the Transformers Foundation, Sentinel Prime managed to unify all of the different Cybertronian tribes under one banner, and also restore power and energy back to Cybertron after eons of conflict and starvation. Shortly thereafter, all Cybertronians rallied behind him, and he became the de facto leader of Cybertron before choosing Optimus as his successor. So yeah, Sentinel Prime was actually a pretty wise and intelligent Autobot. He might not have been a genius like Soundwave, but the mere fact that he managed to construct a space bridge, play both Autobots and Decepticons for fools, and was the one Transformer who managed to restore peace back to Cybertron after the death of the original 13 Primes, just goes to show that this guy definitely knew what he was doing. Skill/utility, EX. So I'm gonna bring a concept that I haven't talked about before, and that is hacks. A hack is basically a weapon or a power that allows a weaker character to beat a stronger character. In this case, Sentinel Prime's hacks will be the Cosmic Rust effect. Hacks basically ignore power levels and their abilities and weapons that can easily change the style of the battle for a weaker character. But unfortunately in this case, the hacks doesn't go to a weak character, as you guys can tell already. So if Sentinel Prime hacks an opponent that is stronger than him, in theory he could win as long as the opponent possesses no countermeasures to it, such as Shockwave's energy shield, Blitzwing's hover mode that will allow him to dodge the blast, or even Perceptor's Cosmic Rust cure. Although this is a hacks, and technically Sentinel Prime can take down anyone, this does not make him invincible, and he still needs to land the shots if, he wants to finish off his opponent. He often exposes his enemies' weaknesses or plays his battles more tactically, such as when he used psychological warfare to discourage Optimus Prime, got close enough to Megatron and humiliated him in front of his Decepticons, and even beat Lockdown by catching him by surprise and engaging in close quarters combat against him. His tactics are dirty, but they are no doubt effective and allow him to take down strong enemies. It should be noted that he managed to beat Optimus when it came to a combat of skill, even to the point he managed to disarm Optimus. Keep in mind, Dark of the Moon Optimus has had some good feats like beating Bone Crusher, beating Starscream, Grinder and Megatron at the same time, and mowing down through a horde of Decepticons and Shockwave himself pretty quickly before fighting Sentinel Prime himself. So our final tally of Sentinel Prime's parameters are Physical Strength A, Endurance A, Speed C+, Firepower EX, Intelligence A, and Skills/Utilities EX. I also want to mention that the reason why his Skills/Utility is EX is basically because of the Cosmic Rust effect. Like, that hacks alone is just like qualification enough to have an EX ranking for this parameter. So yeah, those are definitely Prime level parameters. Before we go guys, shout out goes to our patrons Maurice Prime, iPulse Fate, Mario Gordon, and Predator King Hunter Plays. That's a bit of a long name. And because they have all donated to my Patreon, they're entitled to a special shout out from me. Thank you guys for donating, it's much appreciated. Make sure to go check out their channels, links in the description down below and in the comments down below. They need all the help they can get. And if you guys want to shout out yourselves, all you gotta do is donate to my Patreon. If you donate to my Patreon, you can get a shout out to your channel. You can request your own videos. You can collab with me in some of my videos if you choose to. And stuff like that. There's plenty of more rewards, and I'm thinking of adding a few more rewards as time goes on, so yeah, it's a pretty good deal. Remember, every time you donate, Squeaker doesn't have to pay for the rent, so you're essentially donating to charity, or at least donating to a good cause. So yeah, there's that too. But keep in mind, we don't force anyone. This is entirely optional, and your support is much appreciated. Thanks guys. But what do you guys think? Do you agree with my stat placement for Sentinel Prime? Or do you think Sentinel should have higher stats, or maybe even lower ones? And did your opinions on Sentinel change after watching this video? Or do you still think that he's not all that strong? Let me know if there's any other characters you would like me to cover in a future video, and I will be sure to do it in the future. I will post a poll on my community tab asking you guys what character should I cover next. Make sure to go and vote after you're done with this video. So like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video. Take care guys!